The ethnic visions which you are going to see in this document film are the resources from the Man in Search of Man series produced by Professor T. Subramaniam Naidu. In India, we have 75 primitive tribes which are also called as vulnerable population who belong to the pre-agrarian societies. Some of them are even now practicing the Neolithic culture. The ways of life of these primitive tribes are different from other ethnic and caste populations. Presently, the primitive tribal groups are struggling hard for their survival. We may call them as a threatened human population. The population is very small, living exclusively in remote hilly regions. Here, Professor Naidu made his documents the life and rich cultural heritage of the Indian primitive tribes. He has spent 18 years of his life for the visual documentation of the 75 primitive tribes. The data provided in these documents are collected from the primary source personally by Professor T.S. Naidu by staying with the tribes. The earliest recorded mention of North Sentinel Island was in 1771 by British surveyor John Ritchie, who passed the island on the Diligent, an East India Company hydrographic survey vessel. F.J. Mount's work in 1863 on Andaman Islands is one of the important documents. He has published the book entitled Adventures and Research Among the Andaman Islanders, followed by in 1889 M.U. Portman, History of Our Relations of Andaman Islands. In 1990, T.N. Pandit has written a book on the Sentinelese. In 1994, Professor Subramaniam Naidu has written a document on the future of endangered human populations and environment of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. The North Sentinel Island is a beautiful spot in the Indian Ocean, fringed with the beaches and crystal cobalt waters. It lies in the Andaman archipelago of the Bengal. North Sentinel Island, however, is unlike any other. It has been described as the hardest place in the world to visit, the world's most dangerous island, and home to the most isolated tribe in the world. The sensational labels cannot be qualified conclusively, but they do hold some truth. For an estimated 60,000 years, North Sentinel Island has been home to fiercely independent tribe that has violently rejected contact with the outside world. It is in the year 1996 I got the opportunity to make a visit to North Sentinel Island to contact the Sentinel tribe, along with the expedition team from Anthropological Survey of India, Andaman Adimajati Vikas Samiti and Tribal Welfare Department. The document you are going to see are the visuals documented in the year 1996 in my expedition. In January 1880, an armed British first expedition managed a successful of landing on North Sentinel Island led by 20-year-old Maurice Vidal Portman, the officer in charge of the Andamanese. The expedition party traipsed through the island in search of the natives, guided by some great Andamanese. They found a network of pathways and number of freshly abandoned villages. Portman noted later that the Sentinelese method of cooking and preparing their food resembles those of the Wongis, not those of the aborigines of the Great Andaman. In surveying the island's fertile oil and groves of tropical hardwoods, Portman encountered not a single soul of the Sentinelese. The Sentinelese had simply disappeared into the forest. Eventually, after several days of searching, the party discovered 6 Sentinelese, an elderly couple and 4 children. They captured the natives and transported them to the Port Blair. Sadly, the 6 Sentinelese sickened rapidly and the old man and his wife died. So the 4 children were sent back to their home with quantities of presents. In 1967, the Indian government began a series of contact expeditions to this island. The program was managed by the Director of Tribal Welfare and an anthropologist T.N. Pandit. The first expedition, headed by Pandit Ji, included armed police and naval officers. The Sentinelese retreated into the jungle and the expedition failed to make a contact with the Sentinelese. The experiences and observations shows that during the visit the sentinel used to come out on the beach and keep watches. T.N. Pandit Ji, in his note on the 1974 encounter, mentions the following. Whenever our small ship anchored at a safe distance, the Sentinelese come out to observe things. As our motorboat approached the shore, the armed Sentinelese warriors stood there with grim faces and their bows and arrows ready for action. As our boat approached closer, arrows flew around us as warning shots. Later they hit out boat repeatedly and one man was hurt in the thigh. As the doctor attended him, there was a commotion in the boat. The Sentinelese noticed all this, expressed their joy and satisfaction through various gestures. They laughed and jumped and talked excitingly and with exhilaration. Pandit Ji further mentions that they showed no interest in red cloth left ashore as a gift. The aluminum pots and pans were picked up and examined with curiosity. Red plastic buckets were liked by them, though the green ones were not. The living white pig dropped ashore as a gift, all trussed up, was instantly speared by one Sentinelese male and allowed to bleed to death. In the afternoon of the day, we found that they had buried the pig in the sand at the beach itself without eating any part of it. This shows that the Sentinelese doesn't like the new species introduced into their habitat. The estimated population of the Sentinel tribe may be around 80 to 100 individuals. These estimates are based on my observations of different groups of Sentinelese in different locations and also based on the available literature and documents in the Port Blair libraries and the AIJVS records. I have applied anthropological methodology for collecting the data and also have a close observation of the sentinel population. My observation shows that the sentinel move in groups which include both men and women and also children. Anthropologically, we can say that among the Sentinelese, the institution of family and the band system exists. We can observe here that the Sentinelese are collecting the gifts of coconuts and collecting, they are putting in their own indigenous baskets and taking it to the shore and keeping separately. It shows that the Sentinelese have the family system and they have their own collection of the family coconuts separately kept in different places, and the children, women and men we can see here. As though we are not able to identify the number of families, but we can say that the family system exists among them. We can able to observe having white flowers on their heads of the Sentinelese. It signifies that welcoming the guest and no harm will be done to you. In the same way, I had the experience with the Jarwa, weaving of green leaves to welcome the guests. It is one of the observations which we have made among the Sentinelese and among the Jarwa tribe. Like the Wongi, the Sentinelese uses a dugout canoe. The canoe you are observing is very small single outrigged canoe made with a single piece of wood. The canoe can carry 2 to 3 people. The Sentinelese are experts in using the canoe. You can observe here the method of balancing and rowing. It is a quite unique way of Sentinelese uses the canoe. Each sentinel looks like a Rambo. You can see the physical structure of the Sentinelese. They are well built. They look like Jarwa, but for me it seems that the Sentinelese are more stronger than the Jarwa, Wongi and Great Andamanese tribes. Seeing as the Sentinelese are approaching through canoes to meet us and to collect the gifts from our boat. It is a sign of friendship that without bow and arrow they are coming to us for collecting the gifts of coconuts, iron implements. My observations shows that each sentinel band is having an individual boat. Here we can observe there are about 5 boats which you can see here. One is on rowing and 3 are in the beach and one more is coming out from the beach. So it shows that there are 5 bands among these tribes in this region. The Sentinelese uses the dugout canoes for transportation, fishing and turtle hunting in the coastal water around the island. Like Jarwa, the Sentinelese also wears a waistcoat made up of a bark of a fiber, which you can observe here, and also threads which made of the bark of a fiber to the neck. Observation shows that the sex ratio is equal among the Sentinelese and also they are very healthy. You can observe here both male and female, the children are very active and healthy. We can observe in this videography that pregnant women, lactating mothers, children are also equally participating in collecting the gifts. It shows that the division of labor is equal among Sentinelese. Panditji, in his report on the attitudes and behavior of the Sentinelese, mentions that I am of the opinion, although the natives are hostile at the first encounter, with the right approach, they may be amenable to friendship. Yes, it is true. I am also of the same opinion. They are highly disciplined and cultured people. We can establish a bond with the Sentinelese to conserve them in a limited way. The time has come to take a well thought out and conscious decision to reverse this trend. To start with, there is a great need for public and mass education leading to the acceptance of the endangered populations with their different looks and lifestyles as equals. This basic lesson of anthropology, the human science, must be put across effectively. Moreover, planning should be of the highest quality and the execution of plans very sensitively handled. Only well-trained and hand-picked workers in a minimum number should be allowed entry into these areas. M.B. Portman, while addressing a meeting in the Royal Geographical Society in London, he described his intentions with the Andamanese. He admitted that their association with outsiders has brought them nothing but harm, and it is a matter of great regret to me that such a pleasant race are so rapidly becoming extinct. We could better spare many another. Culture is the vehicle of progress and civilization. It is a way of life, a predominant way of life. John Von Herder has rightly remarked, the culture of a people is the blood of its being. In other words, it can be said that whatever a man thinks, feels, acts is the final product of culture. Whatever we are practicing in our day-to-day life is the rhythm and tempo, it is direction and momentum is directed by its own culture. Every society has its own culture, which has centripetal force binding in which individual member. The tribal culture blooms in the isolated highlands and forests of India. It is called as Fourth World and is the most delicate culture in the world. Tribal life and culture of India has warmth and vitality. It has a range, a complexity and gender colorfulness which is perhaps unmatched by any other states in the country or in the world. Indian society, religion and culture have been enriched through countries of cross-cultural fertilization between this culture and non-tribal culture, which has created nurtured the pertaining classical folk tribal continuity. In India, varieties of such folk traditions, tribal cultures enhances our glory at the national and international level, and at the same time they no doubt provide the matrix, deliver the nourishment for all our creativity and help to promote our way of life. Stephen Curry, Survival International Director, agrees that Sentinel Island should be left alone. The great Andamanese tribes of India's Andaman Islands were decimated by diseases when the British colonized the islands in 1800s. The only way the Andamanese authorities can prevent the annihilation of another tribe is to ensure not Sentinel Island is protected from outsiders. In 1951, Chengappa, the chief conservator of forests, expressed his view in protecting the Andaman tribes. I agree, we should not try to disturb the normal conditions of life of these tribal people. I feel it to be the duty of the state to see at least that they are brought to human level. It will be worthwhile putting some social anthropologists on the job. They would at least be able to suggest steps for improvement of their living conditions. I have presented at length an anthropological perspective, and for this I apologize, but I have done so because I think it is valuable for the government, the administrators, policy makers and to the scientists to have a clear idea of what is happening to the Sentinelese and how to protect them and conserve them. To formulate a policy not by a non-anthropologist, the anthropologist should be given a free hand, whereas Jawaharlal Nehru has given a free hand to Warrior Elvin to bring into the policies. That is why he prepared a Panchashil, which is Jawaharlal Nehru has accepted and implemented. Here in India, there is no vision for the policy makers to have the consultancy to look into the ideas and also look into the take the suggestions by the concerned authorities or concerned academicians and research scholars. That is why I request the Prime Minister of India and the President of India and the policy makers at different levels and administrators and bureaucrats, we have to take the concern and opinion of the anthropologist how to conserve the aborigines in India. That is very, very important. Otherwise, all these primitive tribes may extinct from the planet, if not today or in the times to come. We cannot see any of the aborigines, not only in Andaman Islands, but also in mainland. That is why I have taken up the work Man in Search of Man series, document the ethnographic document and also to suggest to the policy makers through visual effects how to conserve this population. There is every possibility we can save the Sentinel hunter-gatherers, with the support of the people, government and conservationists, joins together. A unique area of North Sentinel tropical forest can be conserved, while at the same time assuming the Sentinel their way of life. The Sentinelese are the last people on the earth to remain virtually untouched by modern civilization. The entire island resort zone should be conserved and protected from the intrusion of both from India and foreign people. Sentinelese are extremely disciplined people. If you cooperate, the hunter-gatherers, Sentinelese, have every chance of surviving as hunter-gatherers and well with us. As they are biologically, genetically, culturally a distinct population living on the earth, it is the duty of all of us to save this aboriginal population before they extinct from the planet. The need of the hour is to take the advice of a true social anthropologist who has dedicated his life for the welfare of the tribes of Andaman and Nicobar Islands and India.
लुंगी आता है बोलो चलाओ चलाओ
Thank you very much for viewing this episode. If you like, you forward it to your friends and subscribe this channel to know more about ethnic cultures of India. Namaste. Thank you very much. So subscribe this channel to know more about the endangered human